while they're deporting anyone and everyone that they can find off the streets, who, even citizens, he's fast-tracking people from South Africa, but it's a white minority group from South Africa. So it does seem like it's just about the color of the skin, huh? Who would have thunk it?
Afternoon, guys. Once again, welcome to South Africa Lately, a channel that discusses South African trending news. We do, however, grab here and there from international news when it is trending enough to be brought here. Please do understand that I'm not a politician. I do not have deep knowledge in politics. However, I am a South African citizen who's also a voter, and I do believe that my views count when it comes to political affairs of our gorgeous, gorgeous country. You see, this whole thing is something that I would support under normal circumstances, and if it carried the truth. You see, the fact is, in South Africa, there's a lot of crime. We all sleep with one eye open. If you don't get your loved one on the phone, then you begin to be worried until you hear from them. So there is a lot of possibilities in South Africa that is not good. So if these people were leaving South Africa on the basis that they are running away from crime, they cannot take it anymore. So now this whole thing is based on lies that they are being targeted as white people. And you know, Americans are not having it. All races in America are not having it. They're saying they are using taxpayers' money to bring the people that have history of apartheid, the history of racism, the people who are privileged from South Africa, and they are bringing them to America for what? They don't get it. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to leave you watching what Americans said. This is not my doing. This is not my saying. It's the talk by the Americans. So it is their talk. So I'm going to leave you watching what they said. And then I'm going to be back right at the end with my closing commentary.
The more I think about these Afrikaners, the angrier I get. Right now, there is a 19-year-old DACA recipient who has been here since she was 4 years old, has been detained for almost a week. Monday will be a week. He's got her detained, and he's deporting United States citizens, people born in the country.
So the current administration is allowing 8,000 South African refugees, white South African refugees, to come into the country. They are sending private jets to pick these refugees up. Starting Monday, the first batch of refugees will be coming into the United States. My thing is that I thought that they put a pause or halt to folks putting in application or applications for refugee status in the United States. And also, they are deporting refugees. How is it that you're deporting refugees at the same time, but you're sending private planes on taxpayers' dime to pick up these South African refugees?
Here's Joe from Georgia. So Donald Trump earlier this year stopped letting refugees come into the United States. However, undoubtedly he's making an exception. He's making an exception for white residents of South Africa to come in refugee status here in the United States. They've even got their first plane load coming, which the United States government has arranged for them. Now, I do believe that most of us, when they say the word immigrants or refugees or whatever, they think of everybody. But now it's been reduced to an exception for white people only.
So as we are now looking at the images of the 50 white South Africans that have been granted refugee status by this particular president, I can't help but wonder a couple of things. First, let's start here. Isn't it amazing how he heard the fictional struggle of persecution and racism that these people have faced? And make no mistake about it, it's a made-up story that Elon Musk put out. But he can't seem to find it in his heart for the people in Mexico, Central and South America that are trying to receive some of that same refugee status right here in the United States in search of a better life. But he understood theirs. And the other question that I have is, have you ever considered other African countries while you're looking at these people in South Africa? Have you ever considered bringing in people in Asian countries that might be looking for some sort of refugee status to come here? Or what about the Middle East? I wonder what is it different with these 50 people? What's different?
I know every time you see my face, you're like, girl, what you got now? Sit down. I've got more news and information that you can use. The Trump administration is planning to soon receive the first group of white South African refugees it says deserve a safe haven in the U.S. because of alleged racial discrimination in post-apartheid South Africa. Government documents obtained by CBS News are actually showing the initial arrival of the South African refugees could happen as early as next week, according to the documents, which describe the effort as a, quote, stated priority for the Trump administration. Officials have planned a Monday press event at Dulles International Airport in Virginia to welcome the group, the documents show. Although sources familiar with the effort told CBS News the timing of the plan could actually change. So in February, some of you all must remember, President Trump issued an executive order directing officials to use the U.S. refugee program to resettle Afrikaners, an ethnic group in South Africa made up of descendants of European colonists, mostly from the Netherlands. The president claimed that Afrikaners faced government-sponsored race-based discrimination, citing a law that U.S. conservatives like South African-born Elon Musk have said allow racially motivated seizures of land owned by white South Africans. South Africa's government has strongly denied any land confiscations or racially motivated discrimination. The hastily arranged initiative to welcome Afrikaners stands in stark contrast to the Trump administration's move to ban most other refugees from entering the U.S. One of Trump's first actions after returning to the White House was suspending the American Refugee Admissions Program, stranding thousands of approved refugees who had been identified as vulnerable individuals fleeing violence and persecution in Africa, Asia, and other parts of the world. For more news and information that you can use, head over to brownstoneworldwide.com, Cityscape Radio, and you guessed it, get your free issue of Brownstone Living magazine. We'll see you around.
In case you're wondering whether there's any racism in the Trump administration, consider this wild fact. So you know how they've basically stopped anybody from coming to the United States claiming refugee status? Well, they've decided to put an asterisk on that, and they're going to allow 8,000 South Afrikaners to come here as refugees. Those are white people, by the way. So why are the white South Africans allowed to be classified as refugees and come to the United States, but a refugee from El Salvador is not allowed to, or a refugee from Panama, or a refugee from Peru? Why aren't they allowed? Well, I'll give you it's one thing. They're brown, those South Africans are white. There is very little evidence that these Afrikaners are being persecuted at home. The government's saying, we're not doing anything. No one else seems to be able to confirm that fact. Yet the Trump administration is going to leapfrog those 8,000 Afrikaners into the United States in front of everybody else. Now, I would assume that all of the Trump supporters who are against all refugees coming to the United States are going to be outraged about this, right? Right?
Yes, on TikTok, it's not okay to say, as an American citizen, that I don't want Afrikaners from South Africa who claim they're being discriminated against, which is fun considering the legacy of colonialism and apartheid that they've participated in for decades and decades. But I think it's hysterical that I can't say that I don't want them here in the U.S. I don't want them here in the U.S. I see all kinds of anti-immigrant stuff here, but it's interesting because the anti-immigrant stuff is an anti-white immigrant, which is probably the difference maker. But yeah, I'm not allowed to say that I don't want these racist, bigot, shithead, Dutch, colonialist bullshitters in my country, because I don't.
The group of white South African refugees are not refugees. Refugee is defined as someone forced to leave their country to seek refuge. safety in another country due to conflict, persecution, or human rights violations. The Trump administration has granted refugee status to 54 white South Africans, Afrikaners specifically, who are the descendants of mainly Dutch colonizers, settlers, squatters in South Africa. This group of white South Africans have claimed to have faced racial persecution and theft of farmland, although no proof of such happenings has been brought forward. The truth is that this group of white South Africans are the same ones who are angry about the end of apartheid, Jim Crow in South Africa. These are the neo-Nazis, the Klan, the white supremacists of South Africa. They feel that the end of apartheid and the push for equality is injustice to them, much like the far-right groups here in America who mourn the loss of their rights to own slaves with the end of the Civil War and the end of Jim Crow here in America. The Trump administration granting refugee status to white extremists after suspending the refugee admissions programs to all non-white refugees, all non-white asylum-seeking groups, while simultaneously deporting minorities without hearings, feels very much like a move that would have happened in 1930s Germany. Government efforts towards equality is not injustice. Unfortunately, we are under a white nationalist administration who does view any and all progress towards equity as oppression against white people. Now tell us again how it's not about race.
Make this make sense. Trump wants to get rid of all the black and brown immigrants in this country, but yet he wants to import white refugees from South Africa. Make it make sense.
What you mean they about to have 8,000 white South Afrikaner refugees coming over here? Y'all serious? Bro, you are already the majority. Like, how much help do you need? You like that person that claims to be the star player, but literally everybody else does all the work. If you go out on a weekend, like, the place is already filled with a bunch of dudes who want to look like Morgan Wallen and a bunch of girls who probably dyed their hair blonde because they aren't a natural one. And you're telling me there's going to be more of that? Jesus Christ, man. Somebody actually explained to me how they're the beauty standard when they're literally fucking everywhere. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but rarities are usually looked at as, you know, something that's cool. Not something that you see every 5 fucking seconds. No, seriously, what in the dystopian color of friendship is this bullshit? I literally called out their stupid ass plan to go make the Great Wall of Ivory like months ago. But nobody listened. Oh no, if you're an immigrant of another color, we don't want you here, but hey, you don't have UV resistance? Bring your ass over here. Like, you have to ask a questionnaire. Oh, are you an immigrant? Yes. Is the sun super effective against you? Yes. Then come on over. This is so stupid, man.
The Trump administration has chartered a plane to go and resettle a number of white South African residents back to the United States, making an exception for them, despite the fact that Donald Trump suspended refugee admissions into the United States earlier this year. It appears as though there is an exception if you are white and from South Africa to be able to become a refugee in the United States of America, as the State Department has paid and chartered a private plane to bring them into the United States. On January 20th, Donald Trump did sign an executive order saying that the United States, quote, lacks the ability to absorb large number of immigrants and in particular refugees into communities in a manner that does not compromise the availability of resources for Americans. But there was a big public dispute between the South African president and Donald Trump concerning land seizure laws. And well, now the Trump administration has granted an exception for these white South African residents to now become assimilated and become refugees in America. As always, spread the word. I'll do a full breakdown on my Substack, link to my bio, so subscribe for free and follow along for all the news you need to know about.
For anyone who has any problems with refugees, I do not want to hear you talk about the South African white refugees and be like, they're coming here illegally, it's fine, because their own government even says that they are not vetted. While Donald Trump says that they are completely vetted, that's 100% untrue, according to the South African government. They also said that the people that claim that they are being genocided are actually pro-apartheid. and that's why they're moving to the United States. And they're saying straight up that it is a move for political advantage. The South African government also came out and said that it's really ironic that Trump is allowing the most economically privileged people from around the world to enter the United States while denying the most vulnerable people who are trying to immigrate to the United States. Like, let's be clear here. These people are becoming refugees to the United States specifically because they are upset that people are upset in South Africa, that they are pro-apartheid. And yet Donald Trump will not accept any refugees that are actually coming here for detrimental circumstances. Again, it's just racism. That's all it is.
So you mean to tell me that Trump has been deporting immigrants, deeming them criminals, saying that they don't belong in our country, but he's gonna welcome South African refugees into our country? Let's make that make sense. How can you deport people that's been here years on years, saying that they not fit to live in our country? They're criminals, they're wife beaters, they're gang affiliates. You deport them and then welcome white South Africans? Let's make that make sense, man. Make that make sense. The only thing that's really making sense to me now is when he's saying, make America great again. It's only to make America white again. He want to segregate America. And then South Africa they just got through segregation in 94 or something like that. So now you're going to welcome South Africans over here and deem them fit. But immigrants that's been here years on years, you deem them unfit for the country. So you want them to go back. But you more than welcome people to come over. Those are migrants as well. They gonna migrate to our country, and it's okay because they are white skinned. This is some bullshit. I guess that's what he's saying. Make America great again. He's gonna make America white again. And all of you motherfuckers that voted for him, especially you black motherfuckers, you voted for this white man that don't give a damn about the country. He don't give a damn about any U.S. citizen. Only thing he cares about is lining his pockets. The billionaires, the millionaires. He care about those people that's up the ladder. Anybody that's beneath him, he don't give a dang about them. And he's showing you this right now. So, make America great again. It's the best slogan of make America white again. Let's segregate America. I don't understand it. Let's make that make sense.
This South African thing is driving me nuts today because I work with refugees and I'm trying to figure out what he's doing because he stopped the refugee program. So he's not allowing new refugees in. And I want to make sure everybody understands what refugee means. Refugee means they could not handle, like living in their country was too hostile, so they escaped. They weren't allowed to leave. They escaped. And now they don't have a country. They can't go back to their country because re-entering their country after they've escaped, they will immediately be sent to a horrible prison where, all that stuff. I'm not going to, because I don't know, so I'm not going to even start talking about it because I'm not exactly sure what happens in those prisons, but I can only imagine. For example, my Afghanistan students, a lot of them are refugees because they were escaping the Taliban. So they come here, and that's why we had a refugee program. I know MAGA doesn't give a shit about these people, but they're just humans who couldn't live in their country and escaped. So I'm wondering, I was like, why was he using the why was he using the refugee program when he closed it for the South Africans? Like, he's giving them an exception. And it's to fast track their citizenship. So he is bringing rich white people over from South Africa, and they're going to fast track their citizenship. All these people that have been coming here from war-torn lands or from, you know, fascist governments in their countries that have been coming here for help and have been trying to become citizens, but it's expensive and time-consuming, and it's in a different language. And now Trump is bringing these rich people into the country under the Refugee Act that he has closed for people who actually need it, so he can fast-track the citizenship of these South Africans. I never thought I would be living in a time where something so disgusting was happening. And I'll tell you this, if I get any comments like liberal, it's not liberal tears. This has nothing to do with liberal or Republican or MAGA anymore. Well, MAGA. This is about if you are a good person or if you're not. And it's not a flex to be a bad person. So if you're still supporting what he's doing, I mean, first of all, you're anti-American. So please get the fuck out of my country. And second of all, I mean, you must live a miserable fucking life if you have that much hate for just general human beings that need help. But I'm sure you go to church every Sunday. Shake the hand. God be with you, right?
And we will be there, Noma Ganjani, to witness the bigger picture of this whole thing, because I just feel like it's the smallest part of what is actually going on. What that is, no one knows. Or maybe you do know, I don't. Kindly let me know in the comment section. But what I'm saying is there is no American rolling out the red carpet according to these videos. Maybe there are those who are rolling the red carpet for them, because we know some people are happy to see them. But it looks like the majority of Americans are not happy. How that is going to affect the Afrikaners there in America, only them will face it. Only them will face the music, because this is their journey they are doing. All I'm saying is that Americans are not happy. How they're going to show their unhappiness? I foresee the protests. I foresee a lot of marches against this. So whatever your views are, kindly share them in the comment section. Thank you for watching my videos. If you watched up to here, and the next time you bump into my videos, kindly watch my ads in full. If you're on Wi-Fi and you have the time to do so, that support really, 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 really goes a long way.